Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the 5 Million Milestone Podcast. And in the second season, we're going to be entirely focused on how to scale your marketing agency. Joining me today is our managing director, Tim Kelsey. Hey, Tim, how are you doing?
Good. I'm really excited to be kicking off season 2 here and get a bit more involved in our podcast and dig into more about agency life and what it takes to run and grow a successful agency.
Yeah, it's a lot of things happen. Go ahead, Tim.
Sorry. We're joined today by Lindsay Halsey, who runs Webshine, an agency, and Pathfinder SEO, a SaaS company. Welcome, Lindsay.
Thanks so much, Tim and Pierre.
So let's jump right into it. Lindsay, you run two separate companies simultaneously, one an agency and one a SaaS company. Tell us a little bit about these businesses and how did you come to operate both of them at the same time?
I do. I'm the co-founder of two businesses in the SEO space. The first is Webshine, which is a search engine marketing agency that my business partner and I started about 15 years ago. And we came out of the way many agencies start, which is kind of a desire to have self-employment and all the freedom and responsibilities that come with that. And we focus 100% on SEO and then Google Ads campaigns for our customers. And about, 7 or 8 years into operating Webshine, we recognized that we worked with a lot of amazing web designers, developers, and small agencies who built websites for their customers and then looked to partners like us for SEO and Google Ads services. And so many of those folks were hesitant to offer their own SEO services and to kind of get a foot in the door there. But they also were looking for ways to grow their recurring revenue. And so we sort of had this idea of what if we built essentially kind of an SEO business in a box type framework where web designers and agency owners could learn how to package, price, market, sell, and deliver SEO services using our training, but then also our tooling and our software. And so that was sort of the idea behind Pathfinder SEO. And so now we actually run these two businesses in parallel and plan to continue to for the years ahead. In large part because now Webshine is sort of a client or a sandbox for everything we do at Pathfinder. So we find a lot of value in being in the agency world and going through the challenges and the wins there as we relate to working with fellow agency owners over on the Pathfinder side.
Very cool. How do you end up balancing your time between both companies? Like, I'm just in charge of running an agency and I feel like my time is full, but you have two companies to look after. How does that work and how do you make sure you're giving both companies the proper amount of attention that they need?
It's a good question. And sometimes it's not always that elegant, the balance between the two. But the main thing is kind of, probably about 50-50 about between the two companies. Both businesses have small teams. So we have employees that are separate for the two companies. And so there is, different managerial type stuff that comes into all of that. But it's a lot of kind of switching gears and then also looking for ways to essentially take what we're doing at Webshine and move it into Pathfinder. So an example of that right now is a lot of our Webshine clients are going through setting up consent mode in Google Analytics. I mean, this is kind of getting into the depths of data tracking and things like that. But it's something we're working with our Webshine clients to get them, get their cookie policies and cookie consent set up and then deal with the impact that has on tracking organic search performance and Google Ads performance. So we're doing this kind of push for our 50 or so clients over at Webshine. We can take what we're doing there and then move it over into the Pathfinder mindset. So there are a lot of sort of like economies of scale or just sort of we're moving in parallel, even though they're kind of two different hats that I'm wearing. But yeah, it's a little scattered sometimes and not always super elegant. We also find sort of that we can only put our foot on the gas in terms of sales and marketing and kind of one company at a time. So we'll be sort of like, okay, it's October, November. We should really be working on sales and marketing at Pathfinder because there's sort of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday world around SaaS companies. And we'll let off the gas on sales and marketing at WebShine because we do struggle to move perfectly in parallel with kind of the same amount of effort in both businesses.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I think it's super interesting, the connection between the two companies, and how I've sometimes wondered this about SaaS SEO tools or other marketing tools, that they're in their SaaS world, and sometimes the SaaS world is a bit different than the on the ground marketing agency world. So I think it's so cool that you can learn from both and apply sort of back and forth between the two, rather than just sort of, I don't know, trailing off into the SaaS world only and forgetting what it's like on the day-to-day grind for an agency owner. So that must lead to some really interesting insights and great features that you've added to Pathfinder because of those insights you've had as an agency leader as well.
It's been a fun combination. And obviously we really like working with other like-minded, web designers, developers, agency owners. There's a lot that we all have in common, and it's fun to be part of a community.
And
Great.
Lindsay, I'm curious, you talked about, starting your agency because you wanted the freedom, and then, obviously you wanted to keep growing. But how early in your journey as an agency owner did you decide that you wanted to keep the team small? Was that early on? Was that later? And kind of how easy is it, or how hard is it to keep the team small as time goes on, and you still need to have some amount of growth, happening even in that business, which is not your primary focus?
It's a good question. So our agency is small. We're 3 full-time, in-house employee-based team members, essentially. And so that means we work with contractors for tasks when we are looking to kind of scale. So we'll bring in a great copywriter. I just sold like a blog post SEO sprint for a client that has to get completed over the next 2 weeks. And it's a big project with a tight timeline. And so we can bring in contractors to kind of fulfill these bandwidth needs where it's not consistently the sort of work power that we need in our agency, or employee power. And so that's sort of how we've operated, is super lean. And this stems from a couple of things. One is we have gotten bigger, and I have to go back and look, but we've been a team of 5 or 6 in-house full-time folks, all working in an office, even at one point, if we look in our full 15-year history. And while that was really fun to have kind of all that energy in that team, it also came with some challenges. One is it was stressful to run payroll and to always kind of make sure we were moving in the right direction. And the other is I became a manager. So I worked with our team members and not so much with clients. And it turns out I really like changing hats a lot. And so I missed doing the day-to-day work. And while I like being kind of a manager and a leader, I also like just quiet, heads down, doing the thing. And so what ended up happening is we kind of discovered we had a little more stress, and we weren't actually, as the owners of the business, making more money. And so we could really just say, okay, if we're happy like this, let's just keep operating, in this kind of idea of scale, and grow. Or if we actually kind of liked it better, we were equally, our salaries were the same. We were doing essentially the same kind of profit margins. As a smaller team, we could go back to that. And so we just sort of ebbed and flowed. Some of it was conscientious, like kind of this planning of saying, hey, we like being smaller. Some of it was also the economy at different times when there was just a little bit of natural contraction in the market, or if a team member left for another job or something, we're like, hey, maybe we won't refill that role or something like that. But yeah, we've decided to kind of stay small and lean over on the agency side, and it just kind of really suits our style and what we're trying to do.
Very nice.
Very cool. One thing, Lindsay, I know you have a big focus on recurring revenue. You and I actually met at the recurring revenue retreat last year. And I know I've spoken to a lot of agency owners who want to expand their recurring revenue. And like you said, you work with a lot of designers, so they're focused on maybe on the website side of things, or developers, but they see an opportunity of selling SEO services to their customers, the way of increasing lifetime value, expanding their overall recurring revenue. What are some of the challenges you see some of these agencies or designers or developers you work with who want to sell SEO what roadblocks do they run into as they're starting to go down that path of preparing and delivering an SEO offering to their customers?
That's a great question. I think really the first thing that folks run into is a confidence kind of challenge, which is just the confidence to talk about SEO and to call yourself an SEO expert. So if we get really comfortable doing the thing that we are good at, let's say it's web design, then it's hard to just say, oh yeah, I'm equally great at SEO and you should start hiring me for that. And then there's that kind of sense of, well, what if clients ask questions that I don't know the answers to? And like, how do I build the confidence to sort of overcome those hurdles? And so that's something we work on a lot on the Pathfinder side. And we look back to kind of before I ever started my own business, I worked in SEO in a bigger agency. And I learned through osmosis. I just learned from listening to other people and asking them questions. And so those are kind of the two things that we've built into Pathfinder that make our software a bit unique, is that it's not just software, but there's community and training. And so you can come to office hours and say, hey, I had this big question, I don't know how to answer it, or I'm seeing something and I don't understand it. And you can get, other SEOs to weigh in and help you answer things like that. And then you also get that ability to learn through osmosis. By listening to somebody else talk about how to package and price and sell SEO, you get better at the first sales call and things like that. So that's kind of the number one challenge most folks face as they want to get into offering a new service. And it's not unlike if you tried to offer email marketing for the first time or something like that. The other challenge that people face if you already have an existing agency is that finding the time to develop the new business line can be hard. We're like so in our inbox and in our project management tool delivering the current services. It's hard to carve out a window to say, oh, now I'm going to go and do business development and work on this, this other initiative. And for that, it's a challenge we all face, I think, no matter what stage you are in your agency. And for that, though, I really just basically kind of, I use like a little weekly list. And I have 3 things I have to do in a day before my day is done that aren't like tasks and things like that. They're bigger. And I can't move forward. And there's sort of a theme for the week. And so I think if you can set aside, a week to say, okay, I'm going to give 2 hours a day for the next week. So that's about 10 hours to building my SEO services offering. I think in a 10-hour time window, you could be ready to land your first SEO client the next week. So if you can make the time kind of in the beginning to build out the business development side, you can move pretty quickly in getting that first client. And then it just is a matter of kind of learning a little bit on the job in terms of building the confidence side.
Cool. I really love that. We work with a lot of agencies who offer SEO services through us, and we'll often recommend that they should hire a digital marketing expert to help run that new aspect of their business. But that's not always feasible when they're just starting out. And you don't necessarily want to make the leap into hiring a full-time person to just offer this new service that you're not even sure you're going to be able to sell. So I love that you provide education within Pathfinder. And I think a lot of agency owners who aren't in the SEO world see it as this big, complicated, scary thing. But it's actually not that scary once you get into it. It's very learnable. Similar to you, I learned on the job and I knew nothing about SEO and just sort of started watching SEO Moz videos, learning from Rand Fishkin, reading blog articles. And I think you're right, after like 10, 15 hours or something, you can start to speak knowledgeably about SEO to the point where you're going to feel more comfortable on a sales call with a prospect. You might not know everything that's going to go into running the campaign or how to troubleshoot all the little problems that come up, but you don't necessarily need to know that at the very beginning. You need to know enough about what SEO is, the value of what you're offering, and what benefits the customer will get from it. And all of that is fairly easy to learn once you commit yourself and apply some of your time to it. So I love that you put that into your tool and make sure that's a part of what you offer your customers.
Yeah, it sounds like we grew up in the SEO world in parallel. And that makes total sense. But yeah, a lot of it is that, SEO is actually a lot more approachable than meets the eye. And it's not done in a back office. It's not mysterious. It's not like short-term wins that, kind of fall apart. It's all real world marketing. It makes logical sense. So once you get in that sort of mindset of how do I offer high impact SEO services that actually kind of help in marketing beyond just the world of SEO, because we're talking like great content, user experience, et cetera. Offering SEO services actually doesn't feel like a leap from being a good web designer and maybe helping clients with content already, because really that is so much of the name of the game. Pierre, sorry, I jumped in as you were speaking.
No, good. I was just going to double down on the fact that no one's actually gone to school to study SEO. So quite frankly, I think all of us here have learned SEO on the job. But I think the good thing about it is that it is a data-driven field. And so you can really demystify it quickly and kind of make sense of it that way. And like you were saying as well, I think, if you're doing web design, you have to deal with user experience and copy. And both of those things are kind of components of on-site SEO at the very least.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lindsay, do you have any advice for people who are just dipping their toe into the SEO world and thinking about structuring the pricing of a package, or like, how do you actually go from, I have this idea of I want to sell SEO to here's the package I want to sell and offer to my customers?
Yeah, so we think about SEO services kind of in the same frame that you may with web design or other services, and that there's sort of three phases. There's a strategic component in the beginning, call it paid discovery, basically kind of making the plan. Then you have the build phase where you want to go and do like the heavy lift and really get the infrastructure solid. And then you have the monthly and ongoing side, which can range from SEO maintenance to more accelerative plans. And so we sort of, in our agency, structure things where we have two one-time projects that sort of kick off the engagement. The first we call an SEO assessment, and that's where you kind of do this high-level audit. So it's not in the weeds and doesn't take thousands of dollars or many hours. It's pretty high level, and we get to know the core dynamics around a site and sort of map out the overall plan and provide some client education. Then we move into a setup where we do the foundation building, things like dialing in page titles and meta descriptions and creating the keyword strategy and all that kind of good SEO core stuff. And then when we move into monthly, we basically offer our clients three different plans, kind of a good, better, best. Good being just general SEO maintenance. That's going to be a lot of like reporting and basic things like for a local business, updating their Google Maps listing and managing that. But then for the larger packages, we bring in blogging or some kind of content marketing service. And that's really where we're putting our foot on the gas on behalf of the client and building that sort of engine of long-term growth for them on our middle and high level plans. So that kind of framework of some one-time work to build trust and get the foundation going and then moving into monthly has worked really well for our agency and is something that we kind of teach and support on the Pathfinder side as well.
Yeah, that's great. I think that framework fits very well. And I like your analogy of tying it into sort of web development and web builds. It's all the same sort of stuff of pitch the thing, do the setup, and turn it into a monthly subscription so you can have ongoing value for them down the road.
Exactly. And clients, you have to explain to them the why behind all of this. But for most of most clients, they kind of are already familiar with that framework because of designing and building a website in the first place. And the other thing that it kind of helps to overcome is there's a lot of kind of fishy business in the SEO industry. So there's a good chance your potential client may have experienced poor SEO services in the past or talked to somebody that invested in SEO without really knowing what they got. And so what you get out of this framework is you're not asking a client to commit to a monthly retainer of $1,000 or $2,000 a month, which might be a big decision for a small to medium-sized business. And it might take them months to make that decision. Instead, your first sell to them is an easy on-ramp, and it gets them building trust with you and your agency. And so all of a sudden, you kind of don't have a high commitment project, and they quickly see how you're different, what the value is, and they come along in the journey. So that's a big thing in SEO that can set an agency's offering apart, is bringing the client alongside and providing some education and speaking to them in a language that doesn't include a lot of SEO jargon, and making this feel very attainable versus making it feel like you better hire me or your rankings are going to tank. You're going to lose all your backlinks. Don't even worry about what I'm doing. Just pay me the $1,000 a month. We want to be the first agency to build that long-term partnership. And this kind of packaging model really lends that to being the dynamic right out of the gate.
That's so great. I mean, I think trust is so important with SEO. Like you mentioned, there is definitely a shady side to the SEO industry, and agencies who are out there kind of just to take the money and run and not provide the long-term value. One thing I'm interested in, this has happened to us. We've had clients who get sort of spammy emails from other agencies who say, hey, you're not ranking number one for this keyword. Come talk to us and we'll help you do that. How do you overcome those inquiries? Clients will come to us and say, are you doing something wrong? This person says I can rank better than what I am today. How do you overcome that and educate clients on there's two different worlds in the SEO industry, and they want to be on the good side and the trusted side and the long-term value side of things?
Yeah, those are some good words to use in helping a client understand, like, hey, we're kind of going like high quality, not necessarily like quantity of backlinks and things like that with low quality. But the biggest thing there is that your clients are going to receive those emails. You probably receive those emails at your agency, even if you offer SEO services. I get a couple a day, like, I checked out your website and I noticed you're missing page titles and meta descriptions on these pages. I'm like, yeah, delete. You didn't even notice we're an SEO agency. And so there's so many easy scanning tools that can, help to deliver even like pretty concrete feedback that somebody can, in an automated fashion, give to your client to try to win that business or call your work into question. And so the biggest thing is for clients to understand that SEO is really pretty vast. And there are all sorts of very measurable signals of like your images have alt text or you have 2 H1s on a page that might flag in some kind of automated scanning tool. But that the value of your service is that you're actually adding a strategic lens over the top of that. You're not just diving into some kind of a task that might be a rabbit hole because it gets flagged in an SEO tool. You're actually taking your client's limited budget and saying, how can I invest this for the best impact? And oftentimes it is creating that new blog post, and it isn't going down a rabbit hole on some, minutia in the SEO world, or something that's not really going to change the dynamics of the results. And so it's just kind of getting clients to build that trust that you're going after like real world marketing, and you're certainly paying attention to kind of SEO maintenance and best practices. But if you run a scan on the website, it's not going to get 100% on all of the little minutia that things might get flagged.
Totally agree. I mean, we've had clients send us reports and say, how come I have these errors and warnings on my site? And it's like, well, this is a page you built 10 years ago that is irrelevant, and it's not worth anybody's time to go re-optimize it when we are focused over here on the keywords that matter and the rankings that matter and the traffic that matters. So yeah, I think there's some ongoing education that needs to happen with customers as a part of the service you provide, and continually build that trust and say, hey, we're doing the right thing here, and we're going after the things that are going to move the needle and not just trying to get an A+ on our report sort of thing.
Exactly.
One of the challenges you brought up is how vast SEO is, and it's really difficult to explain everything that is involved in SEO. And what we also often see happen is we'll build an SEO, optimized website, and people will think, oh, well, you've done SEO for me. Why do I still need to, keep doing it? Do you feel like it's better to kind of explain sort of the overall picture as best as possible up front, or to sort of do it gradually? Any particular advice there on how you kind of balance sort of giving enough information but not overwhelming clients too much?
Yeah, so this dynamic exists in web design too, which is you go to pitch a new website and you want to pitch the new website, but how do you introduce this fact that like even once they build the new website, there's going to be ongoing maintenance, hosting, et cetera, that goes along with keeping a website live. For a lot of clients, that's new news, right? They're like, oh, really? I just thought I built the website and then like I'm all set for the next 5 years and I'll be back in 5 years for a new website. The same dynamic exists in SEO. It also exists in things like buying and maintaining a car, is that there's sort of an initial investment and then there's a long-term investment. And to explain to clients why SEO requires the long-term investment, I kind of just let them know that there's evolution in the world of SEO. So there's evolution in the search engines. They change and evolve, and we want our strategy to change and evolve in parallel to that. Think about the rise of kind of AI-generated results in the search engines. That's something that we can help our clients move through as part of ongoing SEO. Then there's the part where the client's business actually evolves too. So they might move locations, add a new service, like grow their team. Their business is likely in some kind of an expansion mode, and we want our SEO to sort of complement that as well. And so it's easy to explain to clients that when we work in monthly SEO, we can move in parallel to all these changes. And that is a much more efficient and higher return on investment than like a sprint and stop method to SEO. So think about like running a marathon or training for it. If you put a lot of effort into getting fit to run a marathon and then you don't do anything for a year, the next time you go to run a marathon, it's going to be pretty hard. But if you get like the first one under your belt and then you kind of maintain it by going to the gym a couple times a week, I guarantee that the second iteration of it a year down the road is going to feel like not nearly as much of a lift as that first time. And so SEO is kind of similar to like going to the gym. Once you get that baseline of fitness, it's just much more efficient to maintain and work on that than it is to like go to the gym for a month and then go again in 6 months, et cetera.
Yeah, I really like this analogy, especially since I'm feeling the pain of not exercising as much as I used to these days.
Yeah,
so
I speak from the same point of view. It's hard to keep our day jobs and get outside.
I want to change gears a tiny bit from SEO into Google Ads, because I know Webshine offers white label Google Ads so that other agencies can resell it as their own. What sort of relationship do you have with your white label partners, and how does that work in terms of who does what, who does the communication, who does all the work in the back end, all that kind of stuff?
Yeah, so in general, we think white label Google Ads and SEO services can be a really great way to build and deliver the service, right? And so if you can be the point person with the client so that they kind of have a singular person that they talk to for all of their services, and you really know their business, then you can bring in a white label team to help with the delivery if you prefer to take that approach versus sort of building your own contractor base that's going to help you deliver the service. And in our experience, Google Ads really lends itself naturally to white label because the work is done in Google Ads and it's sort of external to the website. So as an agency partner, if we know the website's, target audience, we can help define a budget. If we know their goals and they've got a great looking website, we can go out and build a really good Google Ads campaign that's totally external to the website, provide awesome white labeled monthly reports, and run this engine for another agency totally behind the scenes. And that means that you don't have to learn Google Ads, the platform itself. You just have to be out there answering client questions, delivering the monthly reports, et cetera. So we really like that model, that white label model within the realm of Google Ads. Within SEO, I think there still is a place for white label. It just, you have to know that you have to be comfortable talking about SEO and getting close to the client, and then find a white label partner that actually can deliver that high value SEO work, not the just kind of like technical stuff that's not necessarily going to move the needle quite as much. So it does require a little more vetting on the partner side, I think, to find a good white label partner that really can get in to the client's business model and website and do a good job. But for that reason, our white label Google Ads offering, I think, delivers the best value and has a really high return for everyone involved. Where we find with white label SEO, sometimes people would be better off if they just brought in a contractor for the couple of roles they don't want to play, like copywriting, but otherwise kind of built a bigger in-house team to deliver the service.
That totally makes sense. And I mean, when you think about Google Ads, the learning curve for someone who doesn't know anything about it to get to a point where they can talk about it is pretty shallow. It's pretty easy to say, oh, here's how the ads run. And you pay the money, they click the link, you show up here, they click the link and all that. So I think that totally makes sense. That's sort of an easy way in the door to offering some marketing services to your customers, because the backside of Google Ads can be very complicated. Learning how to set up and run a campaign and maintain it, and all the things that are needed to run a successful ad campaign are just as in depth as they are to learning SEO or other marketing skills. But everybody understands ads and knows I'm paying money to get eyeballs on my website, sort of thing, and that is a lot easier for an agency owner to pick up and explain to a customer and be that person who owns the relationship without having to know the back end of here's the details of how everything runs and works.
Exactly. And so, and it just ends up being a more natural fit. The other thing that you have to think about with is cost of the delivery of the service. And so with white label services, you tend to cut into your margins more substantially. So you might go and sell $1,000 SEO campaign, but be paying a white label partner $600 or $700 to deliver it. That really cuts into your monthly recurring revenue. And then you might find, you're having to put a lot of work into, they create a blog post, but then you have to go and do a bunch of work on top of it to get it client polished and ready. Or same with keyword research. They might be a little bit off there. And so in the SEO side of things, we tend to hear those stories more about sort of it cut into the margins and I had to do work on top. I realized I could just keep it in-house and build a team versus with Google Ads. It's all being done in the ads platform. And unless you want to learn and master that, white label makes just a lot more sense.
Now, earlier we started talking about how AI is impacting the world of SEO. How do you see this kind of continuing to impact SEO in the next coming years? And what changes have you already seen, actually?
Yeah, so we've seen a couple different changes over the last year or year and a half, kind of with the integration of AI and SEO. What we've seen happen in some cases is people try to look at AI as a shortcut by using it as a role instead of a calculator or a tool. And so the example there is copywriter, hey, now I don't have to have a copywriter. I can just have AI generate all the content that's out there. And while AI generated content isn't against Google's terms of service, it is against the general concept of creating helpful content that's unique and better than everything else that's out there that provides genuine expertise and experience. AI can't meet that level of bar. And so one thing that we've seen, and we've only had it happen with one of our clients at Webshine, is they move away from our content marketing services, which are human powered with some AI tooling, but otherwise real copywriters, and move to say, hey, I'm just going to write these blog posts in-house using ChatGPT. And they're not seeing nearly the results that they used to. And so they'll figure that out over time, but unfortunately the hard way. So that's one thing that we've seen is this idea of AI as a calculator or a role. And the businesses that are doing well are the ones using AI as a tool or a calculator and not replacing roles in their SEO, strategy, delivery, et cetera. Within the search engine results itself, we have AI overviews. And so there's a whole new row in the search results, depending on where you live and if you have labs turned on and all sorts of things and what your queries are. But this feels like basically Google stealing more traffic from our clients' websites, because all of a sudden we get what's called zero-click results. People do a search and they never click through to the result. And so that can be frustrating for businesses to feel like the game is getting harder. Google is making this harder. On the other hand, this has been also the evolution of Google. And when you think about the people also ask section and other things, where we sometimes go to Google and we expect an instant answer. So somebody gave a great example. If I want to know how old Taylor Swift is, I don't really want to go to a website and wade through it. Or sometimes I'll like, it's to stay in the pop culture analogy, like when is the season drop date for some show that I want to like know when the season 4 is coming out. I don't really want to go through Entertainment Weekly's like 25,000 word blog post that just has the date in it. I just want somebody to tell me the answer. So there are places where the user experience is enhanced because of people also asked or AI overviews, et cetera. And it's not bad for our clients' businesses. They can still be part of those conversations. They just might not win the click. On the other hand, there's things where I absolutely want to go to an expert. And so I want to go to a website where I realize that the person powering the content really knows what they're talking about. And so there's still a ton of opportunity for informational queries to lend themselves to driving organic traffic along with transactional queries. So there's this kind of, evolution in the search results, but really content marketing is still the name of the game. So it doesn't really change what we're doing on the ground. What it probably will change in the world of SEO is also a little bit around measurement and attribution and how do we prove value. Before it was all about winning the click and we could really directly track, sessions in Google Analytics and things like that. Well, today that's a little harder because part of the win is actually being part of the conversation, not always winning the click. And so I think we're going to see metrics evolve and measurements of success evolve to be a little bit more broadly minded, looking at impressions and views and things like that, and not always just 100% about engagement with a website. So that's a lot of different, like kind of little things that, or big things, I should say, in the realm of AI and SEO. But overall, it's still business as usual in the delivery of SEO services. We're not seeing any signs of Google going anywhere quickly, and that really it's just part of the evolution, and it's an opportunity to help your clients navigate that evolution. So it's really kind of a sales pitch opportunity, if anything.
Yeah, like you said, at the moment, we're still seeing a majority of the traffic still going through Google, and there's still a majority of that traffic that's still clicking through those organic results. So yes, I don't think people should throw Google out the window just yet. For sure, we're seeing changes, and it's interesting to see even like older generations adopting, AI for searching a variety of things or getting work done and creating content. But I think like you alluded to as well, it's about doubling down on what we sort of already knew was Google's recommendation of creating unique content, and kind of that was true before AI, and that remains even more true now.
Yeah, I feel good about offering SEO services that are really where the core component of the offering is the creation of really quality content, because that content is multi-purpose. It could live on a blog, it can live on YouTube, it gets promoted on social media, it goes out over email marketing. It's multi-channel. Kind of the core middle of the content creation gets amplified and moves out. And it's been sort of the backbone of SEO. It's also a backbone of Google Ads. You need good content on your website to perform well in ads too. So that feels very something we can confidently get behind and say this is a long-term SEO strategy. And you're building your business's long-term business marketing capital by investing in it. So you own that content. Maybe we're going to distribute it in other ways down the road, or maybe there will be other uses for it as competitors to Google pop up potentially in different things. But for right now, there's still plenty of opportunity for most small to medium to very large businesses, all right on Google.
Yeah, even with our own marketing, we've always been very focused on content and sort of presenting ourselves as an authority in the space. But now we're finding ourselves doing just even broader audience building, not just producing content for Google and hoping it ranks, but making sure we're doing a podcast or making videos for YouTube or promoting ourselves on LinkedIn, that it all leads to this holistic marketing blend of being everywhere and being the authority that people run into, and start, again, building that trust in so they come to you and say, hey, we're ready to work with you. We've heard your story. We've watched your videos. Let's do some work together.
Exactly. Multi-touch point marketing, is kind of the name of the game. And yeah, you don't usually convert a person on the first visit or the first interaction. So SEO is one of the key touch points, but there are a lot of other important ones too. And clients have to, move away from this, concept that it's singular channel. Like my Google Ads campaign didn't lead to direct revenue last month. I'm like, well, right, but what did it do? It did 10 other really important things, and it was part of X number of conversions. It was one of the touch points. So there's a lot of value there, and you'd be short-sighted to sort of just say it didn't score, like it didn't win the basket, in as the last point of attribution.
Yeah, definitely. Lindsay, I have one last question for you. For agency owners who are looking to grow, looking to expand their recurring revenue, other than things like revenue or the size of the team, what are the metrics you think they should be paying attention to make sure they're going along that sustainable growth path?
So for us, sustainable growth and just building a sustainable agency has always meant that all of our expenses, including our salaries, are covered by our monthly recurring revenue. So that makes one-time projects the icing on the cake. That can be profits for the owners. It can be that like conference you want to go to, or that new course you want to sign up for, a community you want to be a part of, but that the core of the business is all paid for out of monthly recurring revenue. And so when we were on the growth trajectory, we knew it was time to hire, not because we had work, but because we had monthly recurring revenue that filled an entire salary's worth of an employee. And so for us, that's been the kind of thing that lets us sleep at night and helps us with that concept of sustainable growth. And, it can be a little challenging if you are kind of staying, conscientiously a team of one or a team of three or something like that. You're still probably looking for long-term growth in your salary and profits and things like that. And that's where sometimes in this era, we run into things like needing to raise our rates as our costs go up and things like that. We're coming up with more efficient ways to deliver something. But at the end of the day, that organic growth doesn't come, in our opinion, from just setting some kind of target at the end of the year. I'm going to be at X amount of recurring revenue, and that is my only measurement of success, but rather kind of trying to build that sustainable business where you sleep well at night and you're still growing, and you know that your monthly recurring revenue covers the bulk of your expense.
I love that perspective. I mean, it just shows the power of recurring revenue, that it can cover all of your day-to-day costs, and you're not worrying about where that next project is coming from. Is enough new business going to come in next month? If you're managing around those percentages of costs versus recurring revenue, it just gives you so much peace of mind. And we've tracked that a lot for ourselves, like the percentage of labor costs as a percentage of our revenue, and kind of knowing where's the sweet spot for us. And when it gets too high, it says, okay, maybe we need to slow down on hiring, or it gets too low and the team's freaking out because they have so much work to do. It's like, okay, it's really time to hire and get back to that normal balance that we're usually managing around.
Yeah, I mean, we all fluctuate, in that sense of like overwhelmed, underwhelmed. It's so hard to get in the sweet spot. But trying to get into that sweet spot for the majority of the year is our goal. And then just as a team, really speaking up about workload and bandwidth and things like that, allows us to try to avoid things that then lead to things like burnout. So if you operate too lean for too long, you're going to get burnt out, or people on your team are going to get burnt out. So there's definitely a fine line there, but that's been our sweet spot when we're right in that range, and where all the work is getting done, so that at the end of a month, I go to run my monthly reports and I'm like not looking at myself saying, oh my gosh, September's tasks didn't get completed for 5 clients. Like that's a signal that, we were overstretched, because that means we're running behind.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and looking at it on a yearly basis is also good advice, because we were talking, I think, about this as in the web design and agency world. There's definitely cycles, and there's really busy times of the year, especially at the beginning of the year when everyone is trying to get their marketing off the ground and their new website built and launched, and then eventually things do slow down. So
definitely, there's an ebb and a flow.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much, Lindsay. It was a great chat. Really enjoyed the pricing strategies that you suggested, kind of, building the trust with those one-time projects before going into really kind of those SEO retainers, and following that good, better, best model. I think all of those are very useful for our listeners. Where can people learn more about you and find you online?
So you'll find me over email is usually the best. So I'm Lindsay at pathfinderseo.com. Always feel free to drop an email with any questions. You can find us at Pathfinder SEO on the web. I'm on social media, but if I'm slow to respond, it's because I'm better at SEO than I am at social media. So.
Yep, I know the feeling. All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, thank you both so much. This has been a fun conversation, and I really appreciate being included in the podcast.
Yeah, thank you, Lindsay. It's been a blast.
Talk to you soon.
Thank you, Lindsay. Bye-bye.